Good evening. Welcome very much. Welcome to the interim council meeting. Well, I might it's an interim full council meeting, isn't it? Right. Hopefully, I will not fall over my words quite as much for the rest of the meeting. And hopefully we can also be quite concise in everything we have to say on interim council, because we have a planning meeting afterwards. Yeah. Do we have? No, we have got no speakers for the public session of the interim full council. Do we have apologies for absence? We do. We have no time. Okay, we have. Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, Councillor Hardcastle was going to speak now before the.
Oh, I thought you were going to speak before the planning.
No.
Okay, in that case, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, whatever fits in, I will
No,
do.
it's fine.
Just very briefly, Pat Hardcastle, I'm the Vice Chair of the Leys Morton Parish Council. I'm also the Chair of the North Bucks Parishes Planning Consortium, which I got by accident because no one else would do it. For the park, but such is the voluntary sector. So really what I want to speak about, and I'll talk again more at the planning meeting if appropriate, is there's an application in from David Wilson Homes for a variation of planning condition, which relates to planning condition 13, which when the application was given outline and approval, it stated condition 13 that there had to be an assessment of the wastewater capacity in Buckingham, which we know for years was and what the applicant now wants to do is essentially to knock off the first paragraph of that planning condition, which has a link to condition 1, which lays out that no work should start until the wastewater capacity has been checked and any improvements set in train. And they want to take that off, which would mean that instead of not being able to start until the wastewater capacity is adequate, they then get started and start building, and then Anglian Water are required by law to accommodate their sewage, even if there is no capacity. So we want to object very strongly to that. It seems very underhand, it seems very devious. Where the Buckinghamshire Council planners will see it that way, we don't know, but we put in a firm objection. And I think that this is the sort of thing that brings people into disrepute. It's very underhand. They put in a covering letter. There's no explanation as to why they want to change it. Anglian Water have been perfectly transparent that they haven't got capacity. They have to go to Ofwat to get their strategic plan approved. And we think that the developer should simply wait until that is done and that they follow the conditions, which was very sensibly put in place. And I think, given what happened in the last week with all the flooding, it is particularly crass to put in that application. The situation here in Buckingham was quite appalling.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I want to say. I have sent Mark, I've sent you a copy of the objection which we're submitting, which I'm going to submit later tonight, but that's basically it. So thank you very much, Mayor. I will stop at that and let you get on with your interim meeting. And I will sit quietly here until the planning's.
Yeah.
Before you sit down, Councillor Hardcastle, could you just confirm that Foskett Parish Meeting is also making a similar objection?
As far as I'm aware, they are. I haven't seen what they've made yet, but it will be along the same lines. Yes. And no doubt it will be very well articulated.
Thank you, Pat.
No doubt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
So thank you, sorry for getting that mixed up. So we have apologies from councillor Troy. Are we happy to accept those?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any declarations of interest that we don't already know about? That doesn't appear to be the case. So in that case, let's move on to agenda point number 3, co-option of a town councillor to receive a report from the compliance and projects manager, which you have hopefully all read and which I understand sets out the process as we have used it before. So unless anybody has a burning desire to speak to this, yeah.
I was going to suggest that we accept the proposal. Yeah. Second that.
Okay, seconded by councillor O'Donoghue. In that case, let's move to the vote. All those in favour? And that is everybody. Thank you. On the agenda as item number 4, we have a motion from councillor Harvey. Councillor Harvey.
Okay, again, take repeating your words at the beginning, Mayor, I think it was needs to be said. Up until this year, parking on Sunday was free. I've had representations from a couple of people who said they're not really going to charge people to park on the very Sunday, are they? And I said, well, at the moment, yes, they are. I did submit a petition to Buckinghamshire Council for this to be a county-wide petition, so there should be free parking on all, on this Sunday across the whole county. You know, we need to have things balanced across the whole county. Shouldn't just be one place rather than another. And I've been told today by the one of the members of Democratic Services that because this would have to be a petition presented to the next full Shire council meeting, and that's not until the end of November, this rather kind of makes the petition not really worth doing. Convenient. They did take 10 days to respond before issuing that decision. I might try and challenge it on the basis that I think the decision to amend the parking regulations was made in a cabinet meeting, not in a full council meeting. But well, I probably am not going to get anywhere with that. But I think at the very least, what we can do as a town council, maybe encourage other town council to do likewise, or any other council where this is impacted, is simply ask the Shire Council to waive parking charges on a Sunday. They can't do that in honour of the building. I'm not sure what that was the council way up.
Thank you. Councillor Breaker, no. I was just going to say, I can't just up there then.
Yeah, just for the record, I know that myself and AD have both written to ask for this very thing. I've since had no response. I've gone up the tree to see if I can get an answer on that. I suppose saying we haven't had a response to our request, which was pretty much in line with what the motion says. Is that would that be a fair reflection, lady? Yeah.
I just rise to support that motion and also confirm that we have applied a request to Buckinghamshire Council to avail us that request of having the parking free. Yes, get a response, but I'm sure we will get a response and hopefully a favorable one, which will require addition.
Thank you. That's okay.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for raising this. I think I'm sure everybody's going to support it. But I do say, if even though that full council is after Remembrance Sunday, we could establish the principle for future Remembrance Sundays as well. So it is worth running with it, even if it's too late for this year.
Yeah.
Councillor Moore.
If they haven't introduced, it's a ridiculous idea of charging on a Sunday. This problem would not have occurred. And I'm with my fellow councillors, and I would like to see that lifted, not only for this Remembrance Sunday, but for every Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm not concerned that they are victimising the Christian religion. Because on a Friday, if you're Muslim, you only pay 70p. If you're Christian, you pay £1.70 on a Sunday.
Well done.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I support this as well, and it would be perverse, wouldn't it? Buckinghamshire County Council has suspended parking for the 2 Saturdays of the Charter Fair, but would want to charge for Remembrance Sunday. How perverse is that?
I think that you'll find that it wasn't clear about the Charter Fair until Thursday. And we managed to sort that out on Thursday. Had very kind officer assisted me in that on Thursday. But it's customer practice, I think it was okay. The office had been trying to sort that out before. This is an ongoing question and we will pursue it. I'm sure that we have plenty of opportunity to discuss this at Buckinghamshire Council if it doesn't happen.
Yes.
Can I suggest we move to those who make the recorded.
Yes, yeah, okay, and did we have a seconder for the motion?
I did.
Yeah, okay, yes, you did. So, yes, let's move to a vote and a recorded vote. All those in favour, please. So that is, well, that is unanimous, so you can note down every name. Do I need to read them out? No. Okay. Thank you. Item number 5, a motion for council secretary.
Regrettably, we are bringing this motion today. And before the Town Centre Events Committee, which was the weekend of recent flooding, we had a vast number of residents who had been affected. Now, the principle of the motion is to propose that the Town Council seeks an urgent meeting with Buckinghamshire Council Highways team at senior level to discuss the long-term and short-term strategy for addressing the highway maintenance under flooding in line with legislation of Land Drainage Act. And the Buckingham Town Council also calls for improvements in the planning in line with the legislation casework article and regards to the infrastructure and drainage including in sewage before developments undertaken to seek a meeting with Buckingham Planning to establish this. Now, in raising this, it will be quite evident to colleagues around here what we have experienced in the community from Western Avenue to Meadway to Mitre Street to Orton Road, Orchard Road and other areas. There's a common theme in many of these things is maintenance. And in the planning issues, only today, I spoke with the Chair of Planning and Vice Chair of Planning about the fact that this council, in its diligence and its professional approach to these matters, after calling what they call the main application at Osley Way was agreed, and when it comes to the detail application, we wanted it to go to committee. That was deemed not to be relevant. Well, I think if you were a resident of Meadway, you probably feel that it was relevant. We do need to be mindful of the fact that when it comes to drainage and sewage legislation, isn't particularly rich, it isn't particularly strong, and we discussed those before. I'm very happy to provide details around that. I've also, as a Buckinghamshire councillor, done many things since that day in questioning various people in various places in regards to planning, highways, infrastructure, drainage, sewage. But most importantly, this question was brought to the Town Council. And my actions as a Buckinghamshire councillor have no countenance in the actions of this Town Council. Buckingham Town Council has a long tradition and has had a long tradition of being a community voice for the residents' concerns. And the reason this motion is here is to speak on behalf and seek to speak on behalf of many people who have been affected. Of course, what we don't have is the power to implement, but we do have hopefully the moral principle power to influence. And if we were to speak with one voice on these matters, that would be good. I'm sure that would be the case. And I'm sure when I sit down, I'll speak at the end of it if any points are made, and happy to take questions. But and about detail of other actions. But those of us who were at the Council and Events Committee, we made it clear from the chair that we were not the Town Council and we couldn't speak on behalf of the Town Council, but we would work together to ensure that this was raised and discussed in a meeting with fellow colleagues who we stated were valued colleagues who would be equally as concerned about these matters, hence the motions here today. I will sit, but I will speak at the end if necessary.
Thank you. Councillor Draper.
I'd like to second the motion and reserve my right to speak to the end.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fox.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I support your motions. Councillor Stutchbury, thank you for seconding it. Councillor Draper. Just to update everyone, this morning, Catherine and I attended online the quarterly Buckinghamshire Council Towns and Parishes Planning Forum. One of the main items was on flooding. How do updates link to our local flood rate risk management strategy? They have 5 key objectives they announced today. 1, to develop and promote better understanding of flood risk from all sources now and in the future. 2, to work in partnership with our communities to build resilience to flood risk and climate change. 3, support the development of places that are more climate resilient. And 4, manage flood risk through our capital programme using sustainable techniques. 5, improve innovation, skills and resourcing in flood risk management. They're also working on updating their culvert policies with the aims of educating highways and land drainage consent applicants on best practice design. They will be updating this early in 2025, having talked to all the consultants. There is meantime a flooding survey for residents. Following the recent flooding, our flood management team is undertaking an information gathering exercise to help them understand how this flooding has impacted local communities, and they're encouraging people in the communities to share that experience. There will be a 6 to 8 week consultation on that. So this all falls very nicely into what Councillor Stutchbury has just proposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Just to touch on this motion, I think there are 3 things I'd like to point out. The first is that all flooding, right, is not as a result of this drainage. So we've got those that come on, I think the Medway issue that was raised at the town council meeting that I saw is as a result of the riverbank, which is an environmental agency matter. Second thing I noticed on this motion, it does refer to sewer as well, which from my understanding, that's an Anglian water issue. I think the representation here that the meeting with the senior level of the highways team will resolve these kind of issues, that is environmental issues and those that deal with Anglian water. I don't think would solve us, and I'm now worried as to the investment of our officers' time while we're just sitting down with the senior level of highway team. I think it's important that if we want to actually address flooding, it's to look at all the other agencies, that's the environment agency as well as the Anglian water. And then I think it's also important that we wait, right? Because we've got highways and we've got high waters coming, or floods coming in large drones now, to see what exactly the root cause of what it is. From my casework and what I've seen quite a lot of it, right, is as a result of capacity in some of the sewage infrastructure we have. So it's important that we analyse that properly. I'm not sure if that meeting with the senior level of highways team will resolve that. I know that the council, as a councillor, is taking steps to address flooding issues arising from infrastructure that it does control. But I think those that arise from the Environment Agency and will not be resolved by this meeting. And that's why I would rather abstain from this, because I don't think they will resolve the entire issue of flooding. Thank you.
Councillor Morley.
There's always a complex thing. Who's responsible for land, riches? And as we know, we're riparian owners ourselves. Midway, the stream through there is actually the responsibility of the Environment Agency. And that has been confirmed. And the Environment Agency has been asked to clear it. And the response has been they will do, time permitting. Buckinghamshire Highways have agreed to rob the culverts that lead into it, which will help some of the problem. But the problem is, once a watercourse fills up, there's nowhere else for it to go. So Buckinghamshire Council's responsibility doesn't rely, to prevent flooding. That's the Environment Agency's responsibility to prevent flooding. What Buckinghamshire Council can do is help to mitigate the situations regarding flooding, such as providing sandbags, clearing culverts, clearing drains, and so on, giving advice. They are not there to specifically to help householders. They, in their last flood response plan, which was updated in February, they said responsibility rests with the householders to protect their own properties. However, they are following a government grant, trying to help relieve some of the flooding problems. And most of them are down south, Chesham, Aylesbury, Amersham, the one up north is Tindrig. So there is some hope that it tends to be the bigger flood prevention schemes are going for rather than protecting individual properties. There's a grant from the government which will help people who have had problems getting insurance on flooding to get some money or some help. And there is an advice, there's a flood line, advice line, which people can apply to and get advice. But the responsibility still, unfortunately, rests with the owner of a property to make sure their property is safe. It doesn't rest with the council to prevent flooding, although they take whatever steps they can, obviously, to help. But I won't support this motion because it's too fluid. You know, things have already been done. There's already this situation in place. There's a flood resilience programme. There's a person you can contact. The main thing from the council's point of view, county council's point of view, is that there is a flood response line. So when the warnings go out. In the case of recent flooding, there's a very severe downpour rain, which overwhelmed, you know, even where I live on top of the hill, the court got flooded. And that was because of the sheer volume of waters coming down. And we go back sort of 30 years ago, they changed the design of factories. So that the factories were designed so the water flows over the edge of the factories. Up until then, you used to have valleys in the middle of factory roofs. That doesn't happen, it's not allowed. Because they knew that the rate and the volume of water would change. And if you look at all the factory designs now, they've all got curved roofs, so the water goes over the edge. You cannot stop flooding. Whatever we say here and do is really words. People have to take responsibility, and the Buckingham Council can give them advice. But the Environment Agency is the body that's responsible to stop flooding. And as you can imagine, you've got a lot of places to go to.
Thank you. Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I support this motion. I've been to see quite a few people who've been affected by flooding, not just this last week. There's one lady on Western Avenue who every time it rains, her house floods. She's lived in that house, she's in her 80s, she's lived in that house since she got married. It's over 60 years. And the issue there is that the water does not soak into the drains. It's coming across the road from driveways, which have been the gardens have been made into driveways across the road. So there's a lot of water coming down there. Somebody I know who lives in Adams Close, which is behind where this lady lives, was panicking. She's got a young boy. She lives in Adams Close, and she has had sewage going into her house from the flooding. It's not just when it rains as heavily as it did last weekend or the weekend before. This is an ongoing issue. What the residents of Meadway described when they came to see us in Town Central Events Committee the other day, it was described as water was rising and rising. It went up 2 or 3 quarters of bricks of their house. It has caused thousands and thousands of pounds worth of damage to their house, and then all of a sudden it went away. Now that to me says that there was a blockage somewhere which was stopping it from draining away as it should, which it wasn't flooding the other side of London Road. It was flooding Meadway side of London Road. I would suggest that the issue was debris washed into that culvert that goes under London Road, and the sheer weight of water that was there. It's physics. I'm like, the sheer weight of water unblocked the blockage and it drained away, because as she described it, it was a sudden drainage of all the water. It suddenly stopped. This is an issue with maintenance, and maintenance not being done effectively over the last however many years, and it is something that we need to look at. In Nelson Street, I've been in touch with the area technician about Nelson Street, and he told me over a year ago that the culvert under Nelson Street is collapsed. And it needs digging up and sorting out, but they're waiting for the schedule of works and the plans to be drawn up to do it. That is a maintenance issue. In March Edge, I'm due to go and see the people in March Edge next week. I haven't managed to do so in the last few days when I was going to. Their issue mainly was to do with Anglian Water and their lack of maintenance, which is to the most part sorted out. But the resident in March Edge wants to show me what the issues actually are. We can't just wait for the next time and see what happens. We need to take action and sort this out. Today, in Dadford, they've been digging up a culvert, which has collapsed because of the weight of traffic and lorries going over it. It's going on all over the place, and we need to sort it out. Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. Couple of points really. What all this motion is doing is asking for there to be a meeting. That's all it's doing. The motion is not pretending that a solution is to be found by having that meeting or even having extensive highway works, because we know the problem that we face here in Buckingham. We are a river town, many people live in the valley, and there are always going to be problems with flooding in this town without some rather dramatic changes. So I think we need to just be careful about creating straw man arguments that suggest this motion is doing anything else than that, to say, let's have a meeting, let's talk about this quickly, and see what we can do to sort it out. That's all it's asking for, nothing grander than that. A couple of other points that I think are worth raising. We used to have a representative on the local drainage board, Paul Hirons, for those of you who can recall him. Do we still have one? I don't know if we've ever appointed one after Paul left. We should have one, and I guess it would be helpful if we did have one to hear a report back from them. If we don't have one, then I think we should appoint somebody soon who could attend that and maybe give us some insight into the drainage issues. I will also mention again Terry Cavanagh, a former councillor from Akeley. Obviously, we know him most through his work on the canal restoration. He's currently languishing at home, recuperating from a rather nasty surgery on his foot. So he all send in well wishes, by the way, for his speedy recovery. That would be good. But when he came to this council some months ago, some years ago, he explained how there was a need for some redirection of drains at the top of Page Hill, so the water actually went down the culvert beside the bypass rather than into March Edge, is what seems to be happening at the moment. Those of us who were out there were thoroughly impressed by the presentation. Has anything happened? No, it hasn't. There's also the section 14, I think it's section 14 report that was done post the
19.
Christmas. What? 19. Section 19 report that was done after the flooding that happened a few years back on Christmas. Is anybody checking to see whether any of those actions that were recommended in that report have been done and followed through, not just by the Shire Council or indeed by us, but also by the Environment Agency, also by Anglian Water, and so on. we know that runoff water is a problem. We know about Addington Road and the water involved with that. We now know very much about what happens in Meadway with the runoff water there, or maybe it was to do with the stream at the back of Meadway. And we know about Gorcott Hill and what happens to the properties at the bottom of it in Nelson Street. So these are known things that could be maybe obviated in some way and made slightly better. Surely, to have a measure that say, well, let's have a meeting to talk about this stuff, cannot be controversial. There's no accusation of responsibility here. There's no suggestion that somebody has done something wrong and needs to be punished. Simply saying, we've got to move on, we're going to try and make a difference for the future, for all those people particularly who suffer from great stress whenever the sky's darkened and rain falls down.
Thank you. Councillor Draper.
Thank you. I am equally astounded that anyone would feel that this was a controversial motion. We all heard the plight of people on Meadway, again, having grown from Well Street. I remember bailing my neighbours' gardens, houses, cellars out from when I was a little kid. I've also I've got friends that bought their first house on Meadway, had their first child, and within a few months, their house was ruined by floodwater in an area which had previously been thought to have been safe from flooding. As again, the residents of Meadway said, 30 years one of those residents lived there, and never until the last 3 years had they seen flooding of that level. And yes, I am aware there is a small stream, not a river, that runs through some of those gardens in Meadway. However, all of the residents also said in that meeting that the water was running down the road. The water was not just coming from that river. There is so much surface water, and again, and some Rumbles fields as well, where the drains haven't been properly dug, they've blocked. So the water runs from the top of the estate and floods down to the bottom of the estate at great speed. Now that estate hasn't been adopted yet, so therefore those drains can't be reported on Fix My Street. They are at the moment the responsibility of the developer. However, my question would also be, are those, when those sites are assessed to be taken over by highways, is that done in summer or winter? Because I'm sure on a lovely dry summer's day, those drains are absolutely fine. But after a few inches of rainfall, they look very different. I think we would be very unwise to absolve Buckinghamshire Council of responsibility in this area as the lead flood risk management authority. There is an issue with drainage. There is an issue with planning. And I think Meadway is our primary source of evidence for that. This isn't just, yes, it's raining a lot in Buckingham, we've got a river. There are several larger issues here, and we will be letting down the people of Buckingham if we do not speak up for them. We might not be able to act for them, but we can speak for them.
Okay, so I'm aware that time is moving on. I'm not proposing that I will let everybody have a second go. The proposer, yes. I will, however, be abusing my chair's privilege here and give myself the word very briefly. I would agree that I don't think anybody is supposing that all of the issues with flooding are the responsibility or indeed the fault of Buckinghamshire Council. Of course not. Buckinghamshire flooding is a wicked problem. There's a lot of different agencies involved. And in fact, that doesn't make it any easier because there are a lot of different agencies involved. Personally, I would have no problem if at some point we wanted to seek a meeting with Anglian Water or with the Environment Agency to talk through the same issues. I do know that some of the issues are indeed related to things that are under the purview of the Highways Department. Nelson Street being one of them, the issues in Western Avenue are probably to do with drains off the road. And I am worried that it can take years and years and years to find out what the problem is in the first place and then to fix it. So I know that you know, there are limited funds across the county. Nonetheless, this is a real hardship for our residents. And I think talking with whoever is concerned to see how we can promote the interests of the residents of Buckingham. And of course, residents also have their own responsibilities. Nobody is responsible for all of this. But I will support the motion because I think we need to start talking about it. We need to start raising the profile of this because it's going to get worse and worse over coming years. We cannot sit on our hands. We need to talk. I will allow Councillor Stutchbury as the mover of the motion to speak again if he wishes, but then I suggest we move to the vote.
Yes. Thank you. I'll address some of the points made. Firstly, the area of water behind Meadway is in and I've done all the due diligence on this, and as I'm in correspondence and officer conversations, it's the responsibility of the riparian owners, and one of the riparian owners is Buckinghamshire Council. And as for the issue in Borton Road, there's an ongoing question for 10 years about the drain there being collapsed, and it's no knowledge. And the recent video which was taken was lost, and they're going to have to do another video to prove that they haven't lost this one. As for the areas of drainage in Mitre Street, we have you at a disadvantage in saying it's nothing to do with highways. Is that the resident of Mitre Street who was flooded with 3 metres of water around their property, who I happened to see, and they phoned me up on the day to go down and stand there looking at it and insisted I took some action, knows full well that the drain is collapsed, and has had a report 2 to 3 years ago to say the drain is collapsed, which is a highway drain which drains along adjacent to the property. So that is something that can be resolved by highways. In relation to I made a point about development earlier on. It is a public record and will remain a public record that when we tried to talk about the suds and the drainage on Osley Way, it was not allowed to go to committee and was overruled by the powers to be. That wasn't substantive enough to be discussed. It was also raised by this council in the assumption of the development getting approval in the first place. So those questions and concerns have been raised. What we can't do is predict what will happen in the future. What we have to do is try to act what we can do now. Now, the areas I've mentioned can all be accredited, and I'm surprised that the other agencies involved in it. And just for a matter of course, we mentioned the drainage board. I just checked that out because I thought it might come up tonight, so I thought I'd do some bit of diligence on check before I spoke. The drainage board only maintains up to the London Road bridge on the London Road. The other area is not under the Bucks drainage. So that's why it's not been done over the years. And because it doesn't belong to Bucks drainage, it belongs to the Buckinghamshire
Could I
Council.
ask you to be consulted?
So I'm trying to answer the questions, Chair. I think when you have points made, it's very good to actually correct them when they're wrong. So I'm hoping that with a recorded vote, that this will be agreed unanimously, because we must all stand together in these things. And as was made the point in the meeting, that no one thing will resolve this, but talking is a good way of getting to the ground where we can resolve things. And if we can't do that, because this council's had a long history, as I said in my proposal, of being a voice for the community, about the community, unanimously to represent the concerns of the community. And if we can't do that unanimously, there's something wrong with our methodology in this meeting. That's why I shall ask for a recorded vote.
Clarification, please.
Yeah.
In your motion, you talk about various aspects such as planning, highways. Who do you want the motion actually and the report actually addressing to? You say improved planning.
Going back again.
Well, improved planning. The laws on planning are a government statute. So do we actually write to the minister, or do we just write to the local planner? Highways, fine.
Well, just for clarification, on the planning issue, I thought that Buckinghamshire Council was our planning authority, not the second state. And but.
I was going to say, actually, we've had a law we're talking about.
I'm not talking about changing the law. I'm talking about ongoing. If a planning authority makes decisions and ignores recommendations and motions, it is the planning authority that took that decision, and those people in that committee who had the powers to make those decisions, which is all public record. So if this doesn't seek to rewrite the law, it could be that a result of this, somewhere down the line, the law would have to be drafted, but that isn't going to be us at the town council who does that. So all these points of clarification and progressives are very interesting. They're actually unamusing, and I propose we move to the vote.
I think we should move to the vote, although no doubt we could debate this for much longer, but we haven't got
I could do
all
it.
either. So let's move to the vote. A recorded vote has been called for, so all those in favour of the motion, please. That is Councillor O'Donoghue, Councillor Cole, Councillor Gately, Councillor Davies, Councillor Jane Mordew, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Draper, Councillor Ahmed, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Mahi, Councillor Statutory, and Councillor Schaefer. Oh, I remember my own name. Anybody?
I just asked before that we cast a vote that we, through you, we do a press release on this.
I think we have to finish voting.
But I'm asking before we finish voting that we do a press release.
Okay, those against? Anybody abstaining? That's Councillor Ossibold and Councillor Howard Mordew. Okay, thank you, and we will no doubt do a press release once we have ready. Fine. Right, thank you for that, and thank you all for expressing your preference concisely where that was possible. We have a quick further agenda item, that's the new cemetery. We are supposed to have a cemetery breaking ground photograph to take place at 1100 hours on Tuesday, the 22nd of October. You've all had invitations for this. There has been not a formal proposal, but a discussion as to whether such a photograph would suitably, or whether the invitation to be present in that photograph should be extended to previous town councillors if they wish to. I personally somewhat easy one way or the other, quite frankly. Yes, Councillor Draper.
Having only just joined the council last November, I would sort of feel that previous councillors that had much more to do with this project would have more right to be in the photo than I do. So I would be more than happy for one of them to either take my place or to join alongside the rest of us.
To join.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the one who put that in the contract. Well, really, because most of these people are freemen of Buckingham, and they've been great people, and they've represented this council. But lovely words from Lucy there about I've only been on a short time. They were on here a very long time, and they were an initial part of getting this project off the ground. Without their hard work, we probably wouldn't be where we are today. And it's always been good manners in my family to always honour the people who come before you, because they took steps that you walk in, and that's why I suggested it. And they're great people, and we've done a great effort towards this town council in their time serving it.
Councillor Moy.
I think the important this is an informal photo, got for ground token. And the groundbreaking ceremonies I've been to in the past, there's been people who are actually relevant to the project at the time. I'm not saying that these people who have been involved in the past should not be involved, but they should be invited to a proper ceremony for the opening of the cemetery. And that's when people are recognised for their work they contributed in the past, not just to a groundbreaking ceremony, which is really a low-key event.
Both. Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
I think if we should be anything in this council, we should be inclusive and welcoming to everybody. And past councillors who are no longer councillors, who still live in the town, many of us know them very well. I don't see that harm. in inviting them, and it's
Agreed.
make it a bit more, makes it a bit more fun, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like those opportunities and invitations to various events being used in some sort of partisan way. There really is no need for that. We can be a welcoming, inclusive council for the whole town, and certainly for people who come before us as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, maybe let's not invite the whole town this time, they're all welcome. Councillor Ahmed.
Yeah, I just wanted to concur, if it's informal, then there's absolutely no harm in inviting people who were involved with this from the
Yeah.
start. And also, that shouldn't stop us from sending them a formal invitation once the time comes. So
Thank
they're-
you.
Well,
it's just being respectful and acknowledging what they've done.
Well said.
I propose that we move to the vote.
Yep.
So can I just ask, specifically, are you asking to invite every single former councillor?
Yeah.
No, seriously, I think
Yeah.
may I speak once, as,
With it?
Yeah,
as,
not everybody at once.
I mean,
Robin.
in the correspondence, which of course I suggested in my thoughts that both councillor Christine Strain-Clark, councillor Ruth Noel, councillor Kerry Greenfield and councillor Mike Smith, who all were really big parts of making this happen. And if I've forgotten somebody, happy to be corrected, but they were all big.
Well, we've also got councillor Warren White and councillor
Correct.
Sue Hetherington and
Yeah.
councillor Ryan William.
I just the ones that I were Freeman of Buckingham, and I thought that when we had the Freeman of Buckingham, it meant something.
Yeah.
Oh, and it meant a lot to be a Freeman of Buckingham.
Okay, councillor Ossett.
Yes, I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I think I do agree with councillor Harvey on this point. If we're going to invite anybody, I think we should invite everybody. I think controversy around the nominations for the support of those how many of the councils had. I think councillor Paul Lawrence, I do know him.
Yeah, well done.
Yes, he was here. I also know councillor White was here as well. So yes, so I think aligning with councillor Ahmed as well. I think if we're going to send an invitation, it should be to everybody. Whoever can make it should come.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Again, if I may clarify, are we talking everybody in the council since this project started or back for
Since.
the project started?
I just say thank you for that, AD, that intervention, because I didn't mention that to people because it was a closed conversation about the principle of it. I wasn't deciding it, it's just that I picked on 4 names. You know, and I thank you for saying what you said.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
this is informal, I think. To me, may I summarise what I hear to be the consensus that we invite those councillors who were on the council since the project started.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do not believe that they will all be able to come anyway, so I don't think we'll be. No, the word that came to mind is flooded, but I don't think that's. I don't think we'll be all. That's the same. Do we need a formal proposal for this? Yeah, okay, in this case, councillor Stuttery has proposed and councillor O'Donoghue has seconded. All those in favour, please. And that appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much. That seems to be a nice way forward for what is after all just an informal. Thank goodness we finally got a space in the ground. Okay, yeah. It is formal, but again, not everybody will be. Yeah. And oops, I put the agenda away, but I think that was the end of the announcements. Okay, the chair's announcement, I do not believe that I have any chair's announcement except to say, do we still need more volunteers for the vote closure on Friday? Are we good with that?
I'm available this Friday.
I'm available this Friday.
Okay, so if you let the office, I think it's Paula know that you are available, I'm sure more hands will
Let me
be.
know, please.
We'll just tell you.
Yeah, okay. And the dates of the next meetings, the next full council meeting is Monday, 4th of November. And the next interim council is on Monday, the 2nd of December. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
That brings
Matt.
this-
Thank you.
Thank you very much.